Say one man can't change the world, but this one man, Alex Garner, would define American and North American politics for decades.
As good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan.
24, a perfect storm of events, including a terrible debate performance by Donald Trump, allowed Kamala Devi Harris to become the 47th President of the United States, flipping the House to the Democrats. Alex Garner was born in January 2008. He was elected in the 2030s to represent New York's 3rd Congressional District. 2040 elections, James Stevenson was elected president of the Republican Party swept the House and Senate. This led to Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene becoming Speaker of the House, a figure known for her far-right activism and controversial statements.
To abide by decorum of the House.
The endorsement of the outgoing Speaker and former President Barack Obama, Alex Garner became the new leader of the House Democratic Caucus and thus the minority leader. World War III began between the Eurasian Pact and the Allies. Alex Garner led the effort to declare war against the Speaker, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and he succeeded. In July of 2041, a scandal broke out where Marjorie Taylor Greene used racist and homophobic remarks, including doing the Hitler salute in front of the German Chancellor. She was promptly ousted as Speaker, and Charles Alexander, a moderate Republican, became Speaker. She was later expelled from Congress altogether after using a certain slur in front of the German Chancellor publicly. Advances in the war, helped spurred by Garner, brought him great fame. In February 2042, Charles Alexander was ousted as Speaker and Lauren Boebert came in. This is due to the conspiracy theory QAnon. (2042) midterms, after securing the endorsement of the German Chancellor, Democrats win 260 seats and in the House and 55 seats in the Senate. The election goes so poorly for Republicans that the Speaker, Lauren Boebert, loses her seat. This leads to Alex Garner becoming the Speaker of the House in January. Acceptance speech as Speaker, he expresses support for unicameralism and expresses that the MAGA is false because America is constantly getting greater. It's not all happy news. Alex's maternal grandmother, who was a very big influence on his life, died on January 17th. War ended in victory, but that was not what was on Alex Garner's mind. He honored his grandmother's dying words and ran for president. President Stevenson had been forced not to run again. All right, forcing President Stevenson to not run again. Matt Gaetz looked like the likely Republican nominee. The former governor of Florida had made many controversial moves. Perhaps the most controversial is an interview where he said he was going to get rid of the First Amendment and said maybe fascism wasn't so bad. On March 15th, 2043, something shocking would happen. He was holding a rally in Charleston, West Virginia, when he was shot by a communist. The communist was named Charles Marx. Alex Garner was shocked and commemorated the death. With the death of Gaetz, Herschel Walker was nominated instead, but his campaign was beset by, frankly, Walker's idiocy. He made several controversial remarks, as you will see on the screen. Point saying we must need to kill all the sharks to prevent sharknadoes. And he had disastrous debate performance. When the election came around, Alex Garner and his running mate Mary Peltola swept every state except for Alabama and Mississippi. And Alex Garner was elected president. I, Alex Edward Garner, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. So help me God. President Garner made many changes, including abolishing the Senate, restoring abortion rights, expanding the House, and admitting Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. as states. But India, which had become a theocracy after the death of longtime leader Modi, caused a new Cold War with conflicts in Nigeria and Cabo Verde, and finally in Zimbabwe. After the reveal of Wilhelm Bernadotte's successor as German Chancellor Lena Fischer as an Indian spy, the Indian government fell in a revolution and the Second Cold War ended in a draw. The idea for the North American Union came to Garner in a dream, and he worked to make that dream a reality. The dispute between Belize and Guatemala wanted a supranational union like the EU, and he got that. This proposal caused a civil war in the Republican Party, with those opposed forming the America First. Various politicians from Alabama of the America First Party voiced their opposition to the North American Union plan. And this culminated when a leaked phone call published by the New York Post came out where Garner called Alabama the worst state in the country, leading to a short war where Alabama attempted to secede but was forcefully brought back into the Union. For the North American Union, he formed the Liberal Social Union, which was a combination of political parties of liberal and social democratic to form a unified ticket to run in the North American Union elections. The union was formed, and Ottawa became its capital, and Garner was elected Chancellor of the North American Union. First chancellorship, he had to deal with a gang war and ultimately an intervention in Haiti. He had to deal with the devastating Hurricane Dick that completely made New Orleans uninhabitable and was the strongest and deadliest tropical cyclone ever. He said, "My fellow North Americans, many have heard about the terrible tempest that befell New Orleans and the rest of Louisiana. The extent and destruction of death are unimaginable. It is as if God has left us. But we shall strive together to honor the fallen and to pick up the pieces of our broken lives. So far, as of yet, there has been no confirmed survivors inside the city. This is one of the deadliest calamities to befall North America and the deadliest tropical cyclone ever recorded. Desperate times call for desperate measures, and I am pleased to announce by executive order I have created the North American Weather Service that will take over duties from our national weather services. Also, we must not ignore the threat of our changing climate. That is why we must build flood barriers and preserve our wetlands. Strive as one and ride this out together." Garner's first chancellorship ended when the LSU lost its majority, and the Conservative Union and the Patriots formed a coalition under Carlos Mendoza Ramirez, a descendant of the first Mexican emperor who had a short-lived reign, and related by adoption to the Habsburgs. However, Mendoza Ramirez's chancellorship would be rocked by a scandal. It revealed that Mendoza Ramirez was actually a pedophile, and while publicly he denied that, old footage from an interview that had not been published surfaced of him admitting that women would let him get away with anything. This would lead to a no-confidence vote, with Garner coming back as chancellor. This time, Garner would adopt two kids, Will and Tim, whose respective parents had abandoned them. Mendoza Ramirez would be prosecuted in court, during which he'd make a bizarre speech praising the late, great Tyler Galpin. He would eventually be convicted by the North American Supreme Court, sentenced to 60 years in prison, well, more like house arrest, without parole. He would eventually be pardoned in exchange for providing information about Iron Cross Insurance. On August 6, 2061, he posted a post that called for his supporters to march on the Union Hall, the seat of the North American Union in Ottawa, causing a massive insurrection, similar to the January 6th insurrection. This led to widespread condemnation of the Make North America Great Again movement led by Carlos Mendoza Ramirez, and Alex Garner would make a speech to the North American Congress. In his speech, he talked about the binding up of wounds and quoted Abraham Lincoln and said, "Yesterday was a day that shall be engraved in the memory of the entire Union." His speech was a moving speech, and it led to thunderous applause. Meanwhile, Mendoza Ramirez began selling items similar to Trump to pay his legal fees. April 2064, Alex Garner resigned, saying, "For many years I have served in my capacity as chancellor. The union has outgrown their need for me, and I've decided to step back to be a full-time parent. I'd like to thank all North Americans who voted for my party, all NACPs who have voted with me, any policy in the past. I'd also like to thank my sons, Will and Tim, for being steadfast and good kids, even though I am not with them a lot. I am retiring from Congress and as leader of the party, effective when a successor is elected. Thank you all for your service to the union and to me. Thank you very much." Garner's retirement, the Garner era, finally came to an end, and thus ended an era in American and North American politics.